You don't know what that means, do you? The words cut through the diner like a blade. Piper froze her fork halfway to her mouth as every head turned toward the man standing in the doorway. He wasn't looking at anyone else, just her, just the jacket. Before we dive into Piper's story, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end, because what happens next will change everything you think you know about loyalty, legacy, and the price of wearing the wrong patch in the wrong town. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this goes. The jacket smelled like motor oil and leather that had baked under the Nevada sun for 30 years. Piper pulled it tighter around her shoulders as she walked through the hallway of Redstone Gap Middle School, ignoring the whispers that followed her like dust devils in the desert. Is she seriously wearing that? Doesn't she know? Her grandfather was. She knew. Of course she knew. Everyone in this goddamn town knew. But knowing and understanding were two different things, and Piper Calloway understood exactly nothing about why her grandfather's old riding jacket made grown men cross the street to avoid her. The patch on the back, a silver serpent coiled around a flaming wheel, caught the fluorescent lights as she moved. She'd asked her mother about it exactly once. "Don't wear it to school," her mother had said, not looking up from the bills spread across the kitchen table. "Why not? Because I said so." That was 3 weeks ago. Piper had been wearing it every day since. She turned the corner toward her locker and nearly collided with Principal Henderson. The man actually stumbled backward, his coffee sloshing over the rim of his mug. "Miss Calloway." His eyes weren't on her face. They were locked on the patch. "That jacket belonged to my grandfather," Piper said. Her voice came out harder than she intended. "He died 6 months ago. I'm allowed to wear his things." Of course, of course." Henderson's face had gone pale. "It's just perhaps something more appropriate. It's April in the desert. It's 70 degrees. This is appropriate." She walked past him before he could respond, but she felt his eyes on her back on the patch until she disappeared into the crowded hallway. Her locker was covered in notes. Again, "Take it off. You don't know what you're wearing." He was a criminal. Piper crumpled them without reading past the first few words. She'd stopped caring what they said after the first dozen. There were more important things to worry about, like the fact that Mrs. Drummond's history class was next, and the woman looked at Piper like she was radioactive. "Piper." She turned. Maya Reeves stood there clutching her books to her chest. Maya had been her best friend since 3rd grade, back before the jacket, before the whispers, before everything went to hell. "You can't keep doing this," Maya said quietly. "Doing what?" "Wearing a jacket. You know what I mean." Maya glanced around, lowering her voice. "My mom said your grandfather was in the Dust Devils. She said that patch means your mom doesn't know anything about my grandfather. She said he killed people." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Piper felt something hot and sharp twist in her chest. "Get away from me," she said. "Piper. I said get away." Maya backed up, her face crumpling, and disappeared into the crowd. Piper slammed her locker shut hard enough that the metal rattled. Her hands were shaking. She shoved them into the jacket's pockets and felt something there, something she hadn't noticed before. A folded piece of paper, yellow with age. She pulled it out carefully. The handwriting was her grandfather's, spidery and uneven from the arthritis that had twisted his hands in his final years. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you found the jacket. I'm sorry, Piper. I'm sorry for what this will bring to your door. But you need to know the patch isn't just a symbol. It's a promise. And promises made in blood don't die with the men who made them. Trust Silas. When he comes, and he will come, trust him. Love, Grandpa Emmett." "Who's Silas?" Piper whispered to the empty hallway. The bell rang. She was late for history. Mrs. Drummond didn't say anything when Piper slipped into her seat 3 minutes after class started, but her lips pressed into a thin line and her eyes kept drifting to the jacket. The whole period felt like sitting under a microscope. When the bell finally rang, Piper grabbed her books and made for the door. "Miss Calloway, a word." She stopped, turned. The classroom had emptied except for them. Mrs. Drummond closed the door. "I knew your grandfather," she said without preamble. Piper blinked. "You did a long time ago, before," she gestured at the jacket, "before he made certain choices. He was a good man once. He was a good man when he died." "Perhaps," Mrs. Drummond's expression was impossible to read. But good men don't earn patches like that. Good men don't run with the dust devils. And good men don't leave their granddaughters to face the consequences of their actions. Is there a point to this? The point, Miss Calloway, is that you're 12 years old and you're walking around with a target on your back. That patch, do you have any idea what it means? It means my grandfather was in a motorcycle club. It means your grandfather was a founding member of one of the most violent outlaw gangs in the Southwest. It means he participated in things that would make your hair curl. And it means that every other club within 500 miles knows exactly who you are the moment they see that serpent. Piper's throat felt tight. He never hurt anyone. He never hurt you. There's a difference. Mrs. Drummond moved closer. Take off the jacket, burn it if you have to, but stop wearing it before someone decides that bloodline debts can be collected from 12-year-old girls. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to keep you alive. The door opened. They both jumped. A man stood in the doorway, tall, lean, somewhere in his 50s, with gray threading through dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. He wore jeans, motorcycle boots, and a leather vest over a faded t-shirt. No patches. But something about him made Piper's instincts scream danger. Sharon, he said to Mrs. Drummond. His voice was rough like gravel under tires. Been a while? Mrs. Drummond had gone white. Get out, Silas. Silas, the name from her grandfather's note. Can't do that. His eyes shifted to Piper. I'm here for the girl. She's 12. I know how old she is. I was at the hospital the night she was born. He took a step into the room. Emmett asked me to watch out for her, so that's what I'm doing. Emmett's dead, which is why I'm here. Piper found her voice. You're Silas. He looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression softened. Yeah, kid, I'm Silas. Your granddad and I rode together for 23 years. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, I'd make sure you were okay. I'm okay. You're wearing his patch to middle school. That's the opposite of okay. He glanced at Mrs. Drummond. Give us a minute, Sharon. I'm not leaving her alone with you. I'm not asking. The air in the room felt electric. Mrs. Drummond looked at Piper, then back at Silas, and something passed between them, some understanding that Piper couldn't quite grasp. 5 minutes, Mrs. Drummond said finally. Then I'm calling security. She left, closing the door behind her. Silas waited until her footsteps faded before speaking. You found his note. It wasn't a question. Piper nodded anyway. Then you know you're in danger. Mrs. Drummond said the same thing. Nobody's explained why. Because you're 12, and some things are too ugly to explain to kids. He pulled out a chair, sat backward on it. But I guess you're old enough to wear the patch, you're old enough to know what it means. So here it is straight. Your grandfather wasn't just a member of the Dust Devils. He founded the club with 4 other men in 1971. They ran guns, drugs, and protection rackets across 3 states. They made enemies. Lots of them. Piper's mouth had gone dry. He told me he worked construction. He did. After he got out, he tried to go straight, tried to leave the life behind. But you don't just walk away from a club like that. There are rules, traditions. And the biggest tradition is that patches like yours, founding member patches, they mean something. They're worth something. Worth what? Territory, respect, power. Silas leaned forward. There are 3 clubs in the state that would kill to get their hands on that patch. Not because of the fabric or the thread, because of what it represents. Your grandfather's seat at the table, his vote in club business, his share of the legacy. But he's dead. And you're his blood, which means some people think his legacy passes to you. The room tilted. Piper gripped the edge of her desk. That's insane. I'm 12 years old. I don't even have a motorcycle. Doesn't matter. You're an Emmett Calloway. You're wearing his patch. That makes you a player in a game you don't even know you're playing. Silas stood, which is why I'm here. To teach you the rules before someone else decides to teach you the hard way. I don't want to play any game. Too late. The moment you put on that jacket, you rolled the dice. He moved to the door, paused. Pack a bag. I'll pick you up after school. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yeah, you are, because in about 6 hours, the Sidewinders are going to figure out that Emmett's granddaughter is walking around Redstone Gap wearing his patch. And when they do, they're going to come for you, babe. So you can either come with me now and maybe live through this, or you can go home and wait for them to knock on your door." He left before she could respond. Piper sat in the empty classroom, her heart hammering, the note crumpled in her fist. Her grandfather's words echoed in her head. "Trust Silas. When he comes, and he will come, trust him." She pulled out her phone, typed a message to her mother. "Coming home late, study group." Then she deleted it, because Silas was right. She was already in the game, and the only way out was through. Anyway, the rest of the school day passed in a blur. Piper couldn't focus on anything. Not algebra, not English, not the way Tyler Morrison whispered "freak" as she passed him in the hallway. All she could think about was Silas's words, the note, the patch, burning against her back like a brand. At 3:15, she walked out the front doors and found him waiting by a black motorcycle, arms crossed, face unreadable. "You came," he said. "I want answers. I'll give you answers. Get on." She looked at the bike, then at him. "My mom's going to kill me." "Your mom's going to thank me for keeping you alive." He handed her a helmet. "We need to move, now." Piper climbed on behind him, her backpack awkward against her shoulders. The engine roared to life, and then they were moving, the desert wind whipping her hair, the school shrinking in the distance. She didn't know where they were going, didn't know what was waiting for them. But as Redstone Gap disappeared behind them and the open road stretched ahead, Piper Calloway made a decision. She wasn't going to run from her grandfather's legacy. She was going to face it head on, even if it killed her. They rode for 40 minutes straight into the heart of the desert, the asphalt eventually giving way to dirt roads that kicked up clouds of dust behind them. Piper's arms ached from gripping Silas's waist, her throat raw from the dry air rushing past. When he finally slowed the bike, they were nowhere, just scrub brush and rocks and the skeletal remains of an old gas station that looked like it had been abandoned since before she was born. Silas killed the engine. The silence that followed was so complete it made Piper's ears ring. "Where are we?" she asked, pulling off the helmet. "Somewhere the Sidewinders won't think to look." "Not yet, anyway." He swung off the bike, stretched. "Come on, we don't have much time." She followed him toward the gas station. The windows were boarded up, the pumps rusted into abstract sculptures. But when Silas pulled open the door, the hinges moved smoothly, recently oiled. Inside, the place had been converted into something else entirely. Sleeping bags in the corner, boxes of supplies, a table covered in maps and photographs. This wasn't abandoned. This was a hideout. "You've been planning this," Piper said, "since the day your grandfather died." Silas moved to the table, started shuffling through papers. "He knew this was coming. Made me swear I'd be ready." "Ready for what?" He looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something that might have been sympathy in his eyes. For the Sidewinders to make their move. For the Dust Devils to fracture over who gets control. For you to become the most valuable piece on a chessboard you didn't even know existed. "Stop talking in riddles." Piper's voice cracked. "Just tell me what's happening." Silas pulled out a photograph, placed it on the table. 5 men younger standing in front of motorcycles. Her grandfather was the one on the left, grinning, his arm around another man's shoulders. "The founding 5, Soda said. Your grandfather, Marcus Reeves, Tommy Slider, Chen Raymond Cade, and Vincent Cross. They built the Dust Devils from nothing in 71. By 75, they controlled every criminal enterprise from here to the California border. By 80, they were at war with the Sidewinders over territory. What happened? They won, barely, lost Slider and Raymond in the process. After that, the 3 remaining founders made a pact. If anything ever happened to one of them, the other 2 would protect their families. Blood oath, sealed with the patches." Piper touched the serpent on her back. "So this patch means you're under the protection of the remaining founders, Marcus and Vincent. Except there's a problem." "What problem?" "Marcus Reeves died 3 years ago, heart attack, which leaves Vincent Cross. And Vincent..." Silas's jaw tightened. "Vincent's got his own ideas about how the Dust Devils should be run. Maya's dad was Marcus Reeves." The realization hit her like a punch. Maya Reeves, that's why her mom knows what that patch means, knows the danger it brings. Can't blame her for wanting to keep her daughter away from it. Silas pulled out another photograph. This one showed a man in his 60s, lean and hard-eyed, with scars running down the left side of his face. "This is Vincent Cross, current president of the Dust Devils. And he's been waiting for your grandfather to die for a very long time." "Why, Because your grandfather was the only one who could challenge him, the only one with the authority to call a vote and remove him from power. With Emmett gone, Vincent's untouchable. Except, except I'm wearing the patch. Exactly. Silas tapped the photograph. That patch gives you your grandfather's vote, his seat at the table. And Vincent knows that if you ever figured out how to use it, you could destroy everything he's built. Piper's legs felt weak. She sat down hard on one of the crates. I'm 12 years old. How am I supposed to? You're not. That's the point. Vincent's going to try to take the patch from you, either through intimidation, coercion, or he stopped. Or what? Or by making you disappear. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The Sidewinders, Piper whispered. You said they were coming for me. They are, but they're not the real threat. They just want the patch for the prestige. Vincent wants it because it's the last thing standing between him and total control. Silas leaned against the table. Your grandfather knew this would happen. That's why he left you the note. That's why he made me promise to protect you. Then protect me. Hide me somewhere they can't find me. Can't do that. Why not? Because running makes you look weak. And in this world, weakness gets you killed. He straightened. We need to go on the offensive. Show Vincent and the Sidewinders and anyone else watching that you're not some scared kid, that you understand what the patch means and you're willing to fight for it. I don't want to fight for anything. I just want my life back. That life's gone, Piper. The moment you put on that jacket, it was gone. Now you've got two choices. You can take off the patch, denounce your grandfather's legacy, and hope Vincent lets you walk away. Or you can stand up, claim your birthright, and make them all remember that Emmett Calloway's blood runs through your veins. Piper looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the test in his eyes. This was what her grandfather had sent him to do, not just protect her, challenge her. What happens if I claim it? She asked quietly. Then we go to war. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Where are you? School called. Said you left with a strange man. Call me now. Piper stared at the screen, thought about her mother's tired eyes, the bills on the kitchen table, the way she'd avoided every question about grandfather Emmett since the funeral. Her mother had chosen to run from this legacy, had chosen to pretend it didn't exist. But Piper wasn't her mother. She typed back, I'm safe. I'll explain everything tonight. I promise. Then she turned off her phone. Okay, she said to Silas, tell me what we need to do. Something like respect flickered across his face. First things first. You need to understand the structure. The Dust Devils aren't just one club. We've got chapters in 4 states. Each chapter has a president, vice president, sergeant at arms. But the founding members, they're above all that. They're the council, the final word on everything. But there's only one founding member left, Vincent. And you, if you claim the patch. How do I claim it? You present yourself to the council, state your lineage, assert your right to your grandfather's seat, and then he paused. Then Vincent either accepts you or challenges you. Challenges me? How? Depends on Vincent's mood. Could be a vote, could be a trial, could be... He stopped again, and this time Piper knew he was holding something back. Could be what? Could be trial by combat. She laughed. It came out high and slightly hysterical. You're joking. I wish I was. The old rules still apply, Piper. Blood challenges can be answered with blood. And Vincent's killed 3 men in sanctioned fights. He's not going to hesitate to make it 4. He'd fight a 12-year-old girl. He'd put up a champion, someone to fight in his name. That's how it works. Silas's expression had gone grim, which is why we're not going to let it get to that point. We're going to stack the deck. Get the other chapters on your side before Vincent even knows what's happening. How? By proving you're Emmett's granddaughter in more than just blood. By showing them you've got his courage, his cunning, and his complete disregard for playing it safe. He grabbed a jacket from one of the boxes, leather worn with patches sewn across the chest. Put this on over your grandfather's jacket. Piper took it. The patches read, Property of Dust Devils, MC and Prospect. What's a prospect? Someone who wants to join the club. Someone who has to earn their place through loyalty and service. You wear this, you're telling everyone you're serious, that you're willing to do the work. And if I don't want to join the club, then take off your grandfather's patch right now and walk away. Because you can't have it both ways, kid. Either you're in or you're out. But if you're in, you're all in. Piper pulled the prospect jacket on over her grandfather's. The weight of both felt like armor. "What's the first step?" she asked. Silas smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "We crashed the Sidewinders party." 20 minutes later, they were back on the bike heading south toward a place Silas called the Iron Cross, a bar on the outskirts of Redstone Gap that served as neutral ground for the various clubs in the region. Piper's heart hammered against her ribs as they pulled into the parking lot. 24 motorcycles lined up in neat rows. Men in leather vests smoking cigarettes by the entrance. "Remember," Silas said as they dismounted, "don't speak unless spoken to. Don't touch anyone. And whatever happens, don't take off those jackets." "What are we doing here?" "Sending a message." He pushed open the door. The bar went silent. Every head turned toward them, toward Piper specifically, and the patches she wore. Someone dropped a beer bottle. It shattered on the concrete floor. A man stood from the back corner. Huge, easily 6'5", with arms covered in tattoos and a patch that read, "Sidewinders MC, President." "Silas," the man said. His voice was like grinding metal. "You've got some balls showing up here." "Yeah, well, you know me, Creed. Never did know when to quit." Silas's hand found Piper's shoulder squeezed gently. "I'm here on official business. Dust Devil's business." Creed's eyes dropped to Piper, to the patches. His expression went from hostile to something darker. "That's Emmett's patch." "It is." "On a kid. On his granddaughter, who's here to claim her birthright under the old laws. Witness it, Creed. Emmett Calloway's line continues. And anyone who wants to challenge that is going to have to go through me." The silence stretched. Piper could hear her own heartbeat loud and fast, could feel the eyes of every man in the bar boring into her. Then Creed started to laugh. It was a harsh sound, utterly without humor. "You think wearing that patch makes her untouchable? She's a child, Silas. This is a joke. The old laws don't care about age. You know that. The old laws are dead, just like Emmett." Creed moved forward, each step deliberate. "You want to play games, fine. But when Vincent finds out you're using this kid as a pawn, he's going to tear you apart. And then he's going to take that patch and burn it. Let him try." The air crackled with tension. Piper's mouth had gone completely dry. She wanted to run, to scream, to wake up from whatever nightmare this had become. But her grandfather's words echoed in her head. Promises made in blood don't die with the men who made them. "I'm not a pawn," she heard herself say. Every eye in the bar turned to her. Oh. Silas's grip on her shoulder tightened in warning, but Piper kept talking. "I'm Piper Calloway, Emmett Calloway's granddaughter, and I'm here to claim my grandfather's seat on the council. If anyone wants to challenge that, they can do it properly. Through the old laws, through the council vote." Her voice shook but didn't break. "Or are the Sidewinders too scared to follow tradition?" Creed's face went purple. "You little—" "Enough!" Another voice, calm and cold. A man emerged from the shadows near the bar, older, distinguished with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. He wore a Dust Devil's patch with President underneath. Vincent Cross. Piper's blood turned to ice water. "Well, well," Vincent said softly. "Emmett's little ghost. I've been hearing stories about you. Didn't quite believe them until now." He moved closer, studying her like she was a bug under glass. "You've got his eyes. Did you know that same defiant little spark? It got him into trouble more times than I can count." "Mr. Cross," Silas started. Vincent held up a hand. "I'm talking to the girl." His gaze never left Piper's face. "Do you have any idea what you're doing, child? Any understanding at all of the forces you're playing with? I understand that my grandfather earned his patch, that it's mine by right, and that you're scared of what that means." The slap came so fast Piper didn't see it coming. Her head snapped to the side, her cheek exploding in pain. She stumbled back and Silas caught her, his face murderous. "You don't speak to me like that," Vincent said quietly. "I don't care whose blood runs through your veins. You're a child playing dress-up in dead man's clothes, and I'm going to teach you what happens to children who forget their place." Piper touched her cheek. Her fingers came away bloody. Vincent wore a ring that had split the skin, but instead of fear, she felt something else rising in her chest, something hot and fierce and utterly reckless. "Is that your answer?" she asked. Violence, that's how you want to handle this. That's how I handle everything, girl. Then I invoke my right to a council vote tomorrow night, here, witnessed by all chapters. The words came out steady clear. I claim my grandfather's seat, and if you want to stop me, you'll have to do it legally, in front of everyone. Vincent's smile was like a knife blade. You have no idea what you just started. Then I guess we're both going to find out. She turned and walked toward the door, every muscle screaming at her to run. Behind her, she heard Silas say something to Vincent. In a low voice, heard Vincent's cold laugh in response. But she didn't look back. Didn't stop until she was outside the night air, cool against her burning cheek. Silas appeared beside her seconds later. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Which one do you think? Both. He guided her back to the bike. You know what you just did, right? You challenged Vincent Cross in front of the Sidewinders. In front of his own people. He can't let that stand. He's going to come at you with everything he's got. Good. Piper's hands were shaking as she pulled on the helmet. Because I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of running. And I'm done pretending that patch doesn't mean anything. They rode back into the desert, the lights of the Iron Cross fading behind them. Piper's cheek throbbed. Her whole body felt like a live wire, but underneath the fear and pain was something else, something that felt almost like power. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on without thinking. A text from a number she didn't recognize. You just signed your death warrant, little girl. Sleep well tonight. It might be your last chance. She showed it to Silas when they stopped at a red light. He read it, his jaw tight. Vincent works fast. What do? We prepare for war. He gunned the engine. Because tomorrow night you're going to stand in front of every dust devil in the state and claim your birthright. And Vincent's going to try to destroy you. So we've got less than 24 hours to make sure you survive. The light turned green. They shot forward into the darkness, and Piper held on tight, her grandfather's patch pressed against her back, like a promise, like a target, like a dare. Silas took her to a motel on the edge of town, the kind of place where the clerk didn't ask questions, and the room smelled like cigarette smoke and regret. Piper sat on the edge of the bed, her hands still trembling, while Silas made phone calls in the corner. His voice was low and urgent, punctuated by long silences. Yeah, she did it. Challenged him straight to his face, he said into the phone. A pause. I know, but it's done now. We need bodies at the Iron Cross tomorrow night. Everyone you can muster. Another pause. I don't care if they're retired. I don't care if they swore they'd never come back. Emmett's granddaughter just put herself on the chopping block for this club. We owe her. He hung up, looked at Piper. That was Marcus Reeves's brother Cal. He's rallying the old guard, the guys who rode with your grandfather back in the day. Will they come? Some will, some won't. Depends on how scared they are of Vincent. He sat down in the chair across from her. You need to understand something. What you did tonight, walking into that bar challenging Vincent, that took guts, real guts. But guts only get you so far. Tomorrow night, you're going to need strategy. You're going to need allies. And you're going to need to know exactly what you're fighting for. I'm fighting for my grandfather's legacy. Are you? 'Cause from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're fighting because you're angry. Because people have been treating you like garbage since the day you put on that jacket. And anger's a good motivator, don't get me wrong. But it's not enough. Not for what's coming. Piper's throat tightened. Then what is enough? Belief. You need to believe that what your grandfather built was worth preserving. That the Dust Devils are more than just criminals in leather vests. That there's honor in this life even when it's covered in blood. He leaned forward. Your grandfather believed that. He spent his whole life trying to balance the violence with something better. Trying to make the club into a brotherhood instead of a gang. And Vincent's been tearing that apart piece by piece since the day Emmett left. So I'm supposed to save the club. I'm 12. You're supposed to remind them what they used to be, what they could be again. And if that means putting Vincent in his place, then yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother, Piper Marie Calloway. You have exactly 1 hour to tell me where you are, or I'm calling the police. I have to call her, Piper said. No, you don't. She's my mother. And she's been lying to you your whole life about who your grandfather really was, about what this legacy means. You call her now, she'll drag you home and lock you in your room, and tomorrow night Vincent will show up at the Iron Cross unopposed. He'll take your grandfather's seat and everything Emmett fought for will die. Is that what you want? No, but I can't just disappear. She'll lose her mind. Silas was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his own phone dialed. Karen, it's Silas. A pause. Piper could hear her mother's voice through the speaker, high and frantic. She's safe. She's with me. And before you start yelling, you need to listen. Piper found Emmett's patch. She's wearing it. And Vincent knows. The screaming that followed made Piper wince. Silas held the phone away from his ear until the noise subsided. Are you done? He asked calmly. Good, because here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow night, there's a council vote at the Iron Cross. Piper's claiming Emmett's seat, and you can either support her or you can stay home and pretend this isn't happening. But either way, she's doing this because she's Emmett's blood, and that means something. He hung up before Piper's mother could respond. She's going to kill you, Piper said. She's going to try, but first she's going to show up tomorrow night because deep down, your mother knows what that patch means. She ran from it, but she knows. He stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be the longest day of your life. Piper didn't think she'd be able to sleep, but exhaustion pulled her under the moment her head hit the pillow, and when she woke, sunlight was streaming through the thin curtains and someone was pounding on the door. Silas had a gun in his hand before Piper fully registered what was happening. He moved to the door, peered through the peephole, then relaxed slightly. It's Cal, he said, unlocking the deadbolt. The man who walked in was enormous, easily as big as Creed from the Sidewinders, with a gray beard and kind eyes that went hard when they landed on Piper's jacket. Jesus Christ, Cal said. She's really wearing it. She's really claiming it too, Silas said. Cal moved closer, studying Piper like she was a museum exhibit. You look just like your dad. Did anyone ever tell you that? Piper blinked. My dad, Emmett's son, your father. He had that same stubborn set to his jaw, same way of looking at you like he was daring you to underestimate him. Cal's expression softened. He died when you were 3, car accident, or that's what the police report said. Something cold slithered down Piper's spine. What do you mean that's what the report said? Cal looked at Silas. Silas shook his head slightly, but Cal kept talking. Your father wanted out. He wanted to take you and your mother away from all this. Start fresh somewhere Vincent couldn't reach. And 3 days before he was supposed to leave, his car went off a bridge. Single vehicle accident. No witnesses. Vincent killed him. The words came out flat, emotionless. But inside, Piper felt like she was coming apart. We don't know that, Silas said quickly. It was investigated. There was no evidence of foul play. But you think it was him? Silas didn't answer. He didn't have to. Cal sat down heavily on the bed. Your grandfather never forgave himself. He blamed himself for bringing your father into this life, for not protecting him. That's why he left the club, why he tried to go straight. He didn't want you growing up the way your dad did. And now here I am, Piper whispered, right back in the middle of it. Here you are, Cal agreed. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? Piper looked down at her hands. They'd stopped shaking sometime during the night. Now they just felt cold. I'm going to make Vincent pay. That's the anger talking again, Silas said. No, that's the truth. Piper looked up, met his eyes. You asked me what I believed in. I believe my father deserved better. I believe my grandfather deserved better. And I believe that if I don't stand up to Vincent now, he's going to keep destroying everyone who gets in his way. So yeah, I'm going to make him pay. And I'm going to do it legally by the rules he claims to uphold. I'm going to take his power away piece by piece until he's got nothing left. Cal started to laugh. It was a deep rumbling sound that filled the tiny motel room. She's Emmett's blood, all right, no question about it. Can you get the others? Silas asked him. I can try, but Vincent's been making threats. Anyone who shows up to support her is going to be marked. A lot of the old guard have families now, kids, grandkids. They won't risk it. Then we find the ones who will. Cal nodded slowly. There's one person who might help, but you're not going to like it. Who? Tommy Chen's daughter, Lily. She's been running her own crew out of Phoenix, independent, doesn't answer to anyone. But she's got her father's seat on the council, same as Vincent and Emmett had theirs. If you could convince her to show up. She hates the Dust Devils, Silas said. blames us for her father's death. She blames Vincent for her father's death. There's a difference. And if she knew Emmett's granddaughter was taking him on? Cal shrugged. Worth a shot. Piper stood. Then let's go talk to her. It's a 3-hour drive to Phoenix, Silas said, and we've got less than 10 hours before the vote. Then we better get moving. They were back on the bike within 20 minutes, racing south on the interstate while the sun climbed higher. Piper's mother called 6 times. Piper ignored every call. Whatever conversation they needed to have, it could wait until after tonight. Right now, she had bigger problems. Phoenix rose out of the desert like a fever dream, all glass and steel and sprawling suburbs. Silas navigated through traffic with practiced ease, finally pulling up to a motorcycle shop in a neighborhood that looked like it had seen better days. The sign above the door read, Chen's Custom Cycles, in faded red letters. Inside, a woman sat behind the counter, her attention focused on a motorcycle engine she was rebuilding. She didn't look up when they entered. We're closed, she said. Lily Chen, Silas asked. That got her attention. She looked up, and Piper saw a face that could have been carved from stone. Late 30s with her father's eyes and a scar running from her temple to her jaw. Haven't heard that name in a while, Lily said. Her gaze shifted to Piper to the patches. Her expression went very still. Is that Emmett Calloway's patch, being worn by his granddaughter, who's claiming his seat tonight at the Iron Cross? Silas moved forward slowly, hands visible. We need your help. Lily set down her tools carefully. You've got some nerve showing up here. My father died because of the Dust Devils, because of the war with the Sidewinders, because Vincent Cross decided territory was more important than lives. Vincent's still in power, Piper said. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. Still making decisions, still getting people killed, and I'm trying to stop him. But I can't do it alone. I need the other founding seats. I need you. Why should I help you? Because my grandfather tried to stop the war. Because he voted against the raids that got your father killed. Because he spent the last 30 years trying to make up for the mistakes Vincent forced him into. Piper stepped closer. And because if you don't help me, Vincent wins. He gets total control, and your father's death means nothing. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed bitter and sharp. You're 12 years old. You have no idea what you're asking for. Everyone keeps telling me that, but nobody's trying to stop me either. They're just warning me, which tells me that deep down they want someone to stand up to Vincent. They're just too scared to do it themselves. Fear keeps you alive in this world, kid. So does courage. My grandfather taught me that. Lily's jaw tightened. She looked at Silas. You're really letting her do this. I'm helping her do this. There's a difference. She's going to get herself killed. Maybe, but she's going to die on her feet fighting for something she believes in. That's more than most people can say. Silas's voice was quiet but intense. Your father would have respected that. Something flickered across Lily's face. Pain, maybe, or memory. She turned back to Piper. You want my help? Fine. But I've got conditions. First, you don't speak unless I tell you to. Second, you do exactly what I say when I say it. And third, she leaned forward. If this goes south, if Vincent comes at you with everything he's got, you don't fold. You don't run. You stand there and you take it. Because the moment you show weakness, you're dead. Understand? Piper nodded. Say it. I understand. Good. Lily grabbed a leather jacket from behind the counter. It was covered in patches, including one that read, Dust Devils MC, founding member, Slider. Then let's go remind Vincent Cross that the founders aren't all dead yet. They made it back to Redstone Gap by 4 in the afternoon. The Iron Cross parking lot was already filling up with motorcycles, dozens of them from clubs Piper didn't recognize. Silas parked a block away and they walked the rest of the distance. Stay close, he murmured. Don't engage with anyone. Let Lily and me do the talking. But as they approached the entrance, a figure stepped out of the shadows. A boy, maybe 16 or 17, with a Dust Devils prospect patch and hostile eyes. You're not welcome here, he said to Piper. I was invited, Piper said, by who Vincent wants you gone, says you're a liability. Vincent doesn't make that call, the council does. The boy stepped closer. You think you're tough. Wearing that patch like you earned it, you're nothing, just some kid playing dress up. And you're what Vincent's errand boy, The words were out before Piper could stop them. The boy's hand shot out, grabbing the front of her jacket. Silas moved, but Lily was faster. She had the boy's arm twisted behind his back before he could blink, her voice in his ear like ice. Touch her again, and I'll break every bone in your hand. Slowly, while everyone watches. The boy went pale. Lily released him with a shove. Get out of here and tell Vincent that the founding members are taking their seats tonight. All of them. The boy ran, literally turned and sprinted into the bar. Well, Silas said, guess they know we're here. Good, Lily said. Let them sweat. They walked inside and the bar went silent. Every eye turned toward them, toward Piper and Lily and the patches they wore. At the back of the room, Vincent Cross sat at a table surrounded by men in full Dust Devil's colors. His face was unreadable. The prodigal daughter returns, he called out, and she brought the ghost of Slider with her. How touching. Lily didn't respond. She walked straight to the table reserved for the founding members, pulled out a chair and sat down. Piper followed, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Vincent watched them, his expression shifting from amusement to something darker. You can't be serious. You're actually going through with this farce. It's not a farce, Piper said. It's the law. The founding members have the right to vote on all major club decisions, including leadership. You're 12 years old, and you're terrified of what I represent. Otherwise, you wouldn't have spent all day trying to intimidate people into staying home. A murmur ran through the crowd. Vincent's smile disappeared. Careful, little girl. You're standing on very thin ice. Then I guess we'll find out if it holds. The door opened. Piper's mother walked in, her face pale but determined. She looked across the room, met Piper's eyes, and something passed between them. Not approval exactly, but acknowledgement. Then more people arrived. Cal Reeves and a dozen other men in Dust Devil's colors, most of them gray-haired and hard-eyed. The old guard, the ones who'd ridden with Emmett. Vincent's expression went from dark to murderous. You're making a mistake, Karen, he called to Piper's mother. The only mistake I made was staying quiet for 12 years, she called back. Emmett would have wanted this. He would have wanted Piper to know the truth. Emmett would have wanted his granddaughter to live. This is a death sentence. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started threatening 12-year-old girls. The room exploded into noise. People shouting, arguing, a few fistfights breaking out near the bar. Silas stood behind Piper's chair, his hand resting on her shoulder like a talisman. Through the chaos, Vincent's eyes never left Piper's face. And in them, she saw her future. Saw the violence he was planning, the retribution, the punishment for daring to challenge him. But she also saw fear. Real, genuine fear. Because she wasn't just some kid anymore. She was Emmett Calloway's legacy. And that meant something. The bartender rang a bell loud and sharp. The noise died down. Council's in session, he called out. Founding members to the table. Everyone else shut up or get out. Vincent stood, moved to the table, sat down directly across from Piper. Let's get this over with, he said. Lily leaned over, whispered in Piper's ear. Remember, no matter what he says, don't react. Don't give him anything to use against you. Piper nodded, her hands were shaking again. She gripped the edge of the table to hide it. Vincent's smile was slow and cruel. Before we begin, I think young Miss Calloway should know exactly what she's fighting for. So let me tell you a story about your grandfather. About the night he earned that patch you're wearing. About the things he did to claim his place at this table. Don't, Silas said quietly. She wants the legacy. She gets all of it. The blood, the bodies, the innocent people who died because Emmett Calloway decided he wanted to be someone important. Vincent leaned forward. Your grandfather wasn't a hero, Piper. He was a killer. And that patch, it's soaked in more blood than you could ever imagine. Piper's throat closed up. She looked at Silas, at Lily, at her mother standing in the crowd, all of them watching, waiting to see if she'd break. And that's when she understood. This was the real test. Not the vote, not the council. This, whether she could sit at this table and face the ugly truth about who her grandfather really was. I know what he was, she said quietly. I know what he did, and I'm here anyway, because he spent 30 years trying to make it right, trying to turn this club into something better. And you've been tearing that apart since the day he left. So yeah, I want his legacy. All of it. The mistakes and the redemption. And I'm not afraid of you. Vincent's smile faded. For the first time, he looked genuinely surprised. The bartender brought a gavel down on the bar. Votes in session. Founding members ready? Ready, Lily said. Ready, Piper whispered. Vincent's eyes narrowed. Let's see if you're still ready when this is over. The vote began, and Piper knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The bartender cleared his throat, pulling out a battered notebook that looked like it had survived decades of bar fights and spilled beer. First order of business. Recognition of founding member status. Lily Chen representing Tommy Slider Chen's seat. State your claim. Lily's voice cut through the room like a blade. Tommy Chen was my father. He died serving this club. His patch, his vote, his legacy, they're mine by blood and by right. Anyone here want to challenge that? Silence. Even Vincent didn't move. Recognize, the bartender said, making a note. Piper Calloway representing Emmett Calloway's seat. State your claim. Piper's mouth went dry. Every eye in the bar was on her. She could feel her mother's gaze burning into her back, could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Emmett Calloway was my grandfather, she said. Her voice cracked on the first word, but she pushed through. He founded this club. He earned his patch through blood and loyalty, and before he died, he made sure I knew what it meant, what it cost. I'm his blood, his legacy, and I'm claiming his seat. She's 12 years old, someone called from the back. One of Vincent's men. The old laws don't specify age, Lily shot back. Blood is blood, lineage is lineage. Unless Vincent wants to argue that the old laws don't matter anymore. Vincent's jaw tightened. The old laws matter. I've never said otherwise. Then she's recognized, Lily said flatly. The bartender looked at Vincent. Any formal objection? The silence stretched. Piper could see Vincent calculating, weighing his options. If he objected now, he'd look weak, like he was afraid of a 12-year-old girl. But if he let her claim the seat, she'd have real power. A real vote. No objection, Vincent said finally. His smile was like a snake's. Let the child have her seat. We'll see how long she keeps it. Recognize, the bartender said, writing it down. Vincent Cross representing his own founding seat and current club president. 3 founding members present. Vote is valid. What's the motion? Piper's heart hammered. This was it, the moment everything hinged on. Silas had coached her on this part, had made her practice the words until she could say them in her sleep. I move for a vote of no confidence in Vincent Cross as club president, she said. The room erupted. Men shouting, chairs, scraping someone, throwing a bottle that shattered against the wall. Vincent didn't move, didn't even blink. He just stared at Piper like he was memorizing her face for later. The bartender rang his bell again and again until the noise died down. Motion is on the table, requires majority vote of founding members. That's 2 out of 3. Discussion period is now open. This is a joke, Vincent said quietly. Too quietly. A child who's been wearing that patch for what a week comes in here and thinks she can remove a sitting president in what grounds? On the grounds that you violated the club charter, Piper said. The words felt foreign in her mouth, but she'd memorized them exactly as Silas had written them down. Article 7, Section 3. A president can be removed if he's demonstrated conduct unbecoming of the office, including intimidation of founding members or their families, unauthorized violence against club prospects, or members and financial mismanagement of club resources. Those are serious accusations, Vincent said. His voice had gone dangerously soft. You have proof? Lily reached into her jacket and pulled out a folder, slapped it on the table. 3 years of financial records, showing club funds being diverted to your personal accounts, showing payments to members for services that were never authorized by the council, showing, where did you get those? Vincent's composure cracked. Just for a second, but Piper saw it. Your accountant's daughter married my cousin. Family's a beautiful thing, Vincent. Lily's smile was vicious. She's been collecting evidence for months, waiting for someone to have the guts to use it. Vincent's hands curled into fists on the table. This is a setup. You two planned this. We plan to follow the rules, Piper said. The same rules you've been breaking for years. The same rules you've been using to threaten anyone who questioned you. Well, I'm questioning you now, in front of everyone, and I want to vote. You want to vote? Fine, let's vote. But when you lose, and you will lose, I want you gone. Out of this club and out of this town. And if I ever see you wearing that patch again, I'll tear it off your corpse. Are we clear? Crystal. Piper's voice didn't shake. She wouldn't let it. The bartender looked uncomfortable. That's not how this works, Vincent. The vote is binary. Either you stay president or you don't. There's no exile clause. Then I'm adding one. Right now, as sitting president. Vincent leaned forward. If she loses this vote, she forfeits her grandfather's seat permanently. No appeals. No second chances. Gone. You can't do that, Silas said, stepping forward. I can do whatever I want until the vote says otherwise, and I'm calling her bluff. Vincent's eyes locked on Piper's. You want to play in the big leagues, little girl? Then let's raise the stakes. You win, I'm out. I win, you're out. Forever. Deal. Piper's mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. Silas was shaking his head frantically. Lily looked ready to kill someone. But backing down now would be worse than losing. It would prove Vincent right, that she was just a scared kid and over her head. Deal, she heard herself say. Piper, no, Silas started. I said deal. She stood up, extended her hand across the table. Let's make it official. Vincent's smile widened. He stood, took her hand. His grip was crushing, deliberate. You just signed your death warrant, kid. Maybe, or maybe I just ended your reign. She squeezed back as hard as she could, not breaking eye contact. Guess we're about to find out. They sat back down. The bartender was sweating. Okay. Modified terms accepted by both parties. Vincent stays or goes based on majority vote. Piper keeps or loses her seat based on the same vote. We'll go in order. Lily Chen, as the eldest founding member, present you vote first. Lily didn't hesitate. I vote to remove Vincent Cross as president. He's corrupt, he's violent, and he's been using this club as his personal empire for too long. My father died believing in something better than this. I vote no confidence. The bartender made a note. One vote for removal. Piper Calloway, you vote second. I vote to remove Vincent Cross, Piper said. Her voice came out steady clear. For all the reasons Lily said, and because my grandfather spent 30 years trying to clean up the mess Vincent helped create. I vote no confidence. 2 votes for removal. The bartender looked at Vincent. Vincent Cross, you have the final vote. Vincent laughed. It was an ugly sound, utterly without humor. Of course I vote to keep myself as president. This is a farce, 2 against 1. Majority rules, congratulations, you win. For now. The room went dead silent. Then Cal Reeves started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Others joined in. The old guard, the ones who'd ridden with Emmett, the ones who'd been waiting for someone to stand up to Vincent. Within seconds, half the bar was applauding. Vincent's face went purple with rage. This isn't over. Not even close. I still have my founding seat. I still have my vote. And I still have every member in this club who's smart enough to know that following a 12-year-old girl is suicide. Then call for a new president vote, Lily said. Then, right now, let's see who the club wants to follow. Fine, Vincent turned to the crowd. Who wants to put their name forward? Who thinks they can do better than me, anyone? Because I'd love to see who's stupid enough to try. Nobody moved. The applause had died. Men looked at each other at their feet, anywhere but at Vincent. That's what I thought, Vincent said. You can vote me out all you want, but there's nobody else who can hold this club together. Nobody else who has the connections, the respect, the sheer force of will to keep the Sidewinders and the Stone Kings and every other 2-bit gang from tearing us apart. So go ahead, vote me out, and then watch this whole thing burn to the ground. I nominate Silas, Piper said. Every head in the room turned toward her. Silas's face went white. What are you doing? He hissed. Finishing this. Piper looked at the bartender. Silas rode with my grandfather for 23 years. He knows this club inside and out. He's respected by the old guard and feared by our enemies. And he's not corrupt. I nominate him for president. Seconded, Lily said immediately. The bartender looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Silas, do you accept the nomination? Silas stared at Piper. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the fear and the anger, and something else. Something that might have been hope. Yeah, he said finally. I accept. Then we have 2 candidates, Vincent Cross and Silas. The bartender paused. What's your last name, Silas? Kane, Silas Kane. Vincent Cross and Silas Kane. Vote is open to all full members of the Dust Devils, all chapters. Show of hands for Vincent Cross. About 30 hands went up. Vincent's loyalists, the ones who'd benefited from his corruption, the ones who were too scared to vote against him. Show of hands for Silas Kane. 40 hands, maybe more. It was hard to count in the chaos, but it was clear. Silas had won. Vincent stood slowly. His chair fell backward, clattering to the floor. This is a coup. A goddamn coup orchestrated by a child and a bunch of old men who should have stayed retired. You think this makes you safe? You think this makes you untouchable? He pointed at Piper. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Then I guess I'm in good company, Piper said, because you've been making mistakes for years. We're just the first ones brave enough to call you on it. Vincent moved fast. 1 second he was standing at the table, the next he had Piper by the throat, lifting her off her chair. The room exploded into motion. Silas hit Vincent from the side, both men crashing into the bar. Lily pulled Piper away, shielding her with her own body. Fighting broke out everywhere, Vincent's men against the old guard, fists and bottles and chairs flying. Through the chaos, Piper saw her mother trying to push through the crowd, saw Cal Reeves grab one of Vincent's men and throw him through a window, saw the bartender ducking behind the bar with his hands over his head. Silas and Vincent were still fighting, brutal and efficient, neither one giving ground. Vincent got Silas in a headlock, but Silas drove his elbow backward into Vincent's ribs. Vincent released him with a grunt, and Silas spun, landing a punch that split Vincent's lip. Enough. The voice came from the doorway, loud enough to cut through the noise. Everyone froze. A man stood there, older than anyone else in the room, maybe 75 or 80, with white hair and eyes that had seen everything. He wore a leather jacket covered in patches, including one that said, Dust Devils MC, founding member, original. Who the hell are you? Vincent demanded, blood running down his chin. Raymond Cade, the old man said, though most of you thought I was dead. Surprise. The room went so quiet Piper could hear her own breathing. That's impossible, Lily whispered. You died in 80. There was a funeral. There was a funeral for an empty casket. I went underground after the war with the Sidewinders. Let everyone think I was dead, so Vincent couldn't come after me the way he went after the others. Raymond moved into the room, each step deliberate. But I've been watching, waiting, and when I heard Emmett's granddaughter was making a move, I knew it was time to come back. Vincent's face had gone ashen. You can't be here. You gave up your seat. You walked away. I faked my death to protect myself from you. There's a difference. My seat never went anywhere. It's been waiting, just like I have. Raymond looked at Piper. Emmett wrote to me before he died, told me about you, asked me to watch over you if anything happened. I'm sorry I waited so long. You're the 4th founding member, Piper said, her voice barely a whisper. I am, which means I have a vote, and I vote to uphold the removal of Vincent Cross as president. I vote to confirm Silas Kane as the new president, and I vote to formally recognize Piper Calloway's claim to Emmett's seat. Raymond's gaze shifted to Vincent. That's 4 founding members in agreement, Vincent. You're outnumbered, you're outmaneuvered, and you're done. Vincent looked around the room, at the men who'd supported him now backing away, at Silas standing with his fist still clenched, ready for round 2, at Piper still wearing her grandfather's patch, still standing. This isn't over, Vincent said quietly. Not by a long shot. You want a war, you've got one. He walked out. His men followed, but not all of them. Some stayed looking uncertain, looking at Silas like they were trying to decide if he was worth the risk. Raymond moved to the founding members table, sat down in the empty chair. Someone want to catch me up on what I missed? The laughter that followed was tinged with hysteria, but it was real. Piper sat back down, her hands shaking so badly she had to grip the table to hide it. Lily put a hand on her shoulder. You did it, Lily said quietly. You actually did it. We did it, Piper corrected. All of us. Her mother pushed through the crowd, grabbed Piper and pulled her into a hug so tight Piper couldn't breathe. Don't you ever do that to me again, her mother whispered. Don't you ever scare me like that. I'm sorry, Piper said, but she wasn't, not really. Silas appeared beside them. We need to talk, now before Vincent regroups. They moved to a back room away from the crowd. Raymond, Lily, Silas, Cal, Piper, and her mother. The door closed behind them, muffling the noise from the bar. Vincent's going to come back at us, Silas said without preamble. He's going to hit hard and fast, and he's not going to play by the rules anymore. We need to be ready. Ready for what? Piper's mother demanded. You just put my daughter in the crosshairs of a violent criminal. What part of that was a good idea? The part where she took down said, violent criminal without firing a single shot, Raymond said mildly. Your daughter's got more courage than most men I've ridden with. You should be proud. I'm terrified. There's a difference. You can be both. Raymond looked at Piper. Your grandfather would have been proud too, for what it's worth. Piper's throat tightened. Did you really know him after he left the club? We talked. Not often, but enough. He told me about you, about how much you reminded him of himself at that age. Stubborn, fearless, too smart for your own good. Raymond smiled, and it transformed his face from hard to almost gentle. He also told me that if anything ever happened to him, I should make sure you knew the truth. About the club. About what he built and what he lost. So here's the truth, Piper. Your grandfather was a complicated man. He did terrible things, but he also did everything in his power to make them right. And in the end, that's all any of us can do. Vincent said my father. Piper stopped, unsure how to finish. Vincent killed him, Raymond said bluntly. We all know it. Can't prove it, but we know it. Your father was going to testify against the club, turn state's evidence in exchange for protection. Vincent found out and had him eliminated, made it look like an accident. Piper's mother made a sound like a wounded animal. I knew. God help me, I knew. But I couldn't prove it, and I was too scared to push. I just took you and ran, stayed quiet, hoped Vincent would forget about us. He never forgets, Lily said quietly. That's his whole thing. He holds grudges until everyone involved is dead. Which is why we need to move fast, Silas said. We need to consolidate power before he can rally his supporters. We need to reach out to the other chapters, make sure they know there's new leadership. And we need to protect Piper, because Vincent's going to target her first. I can protect myself, Piper said. No, you can't. You're 12. Silas's voice was firm, but not unkind. You did something incredible tonight. You showed courage that most grown men don't have. But courage doesn't stop bullets. And Vincent's not going to play fair anymore. So what do? We keep you moving. You don't go home. You don't go to school. You stay with me or Lily at all times until we neutralize the threat. Silas looked at Piper's mother. I'm sorry, Karen. I know this isn't what you wanted, but it's the only way to keep her safe. I want her out. I want her away from all of this. Piper's mother's voice broke. She's 12 years old. She should be worried about homework and boys and what to wear to school dances, not whether a motorcycle gang is going to kill her. I know. Silas's expression was pained, but she wore the patch. She claimed the seat. There's no walking away from that now. Vincent made sure of it when he escalated the stakes. Raymond stood. I'll put out word to the other chapters. Let them know what happened here tonight. Most of them will fall in line, some won't, but we'll deal with that as it comes. What about the sidewinders? Cal asked. They're going to see this as weakness. Internal fighting always makes us vulnerable. Then we show them we're not weak, Lily said. We show them that new leadership means strength, not chaos. And if they want to test us, they'll regret it. A knock on the door. Everyone tensed. Silas moved in front of Piper, his hand going to something tucked in his waistband. It's me, a voice called, young, nervous. Danny, from the bar. Silas opened the door a crack. The prospect from earlier, the one Lily had thrown against the wall, stood there, his face pale. What do you want? Silas asked. Vincent's outside. He's got 20 men with him. Says he wants to talk to Piper. Says if she doesn't come out, he's coming in. Piper's blood went cold. Through the door, she could hear the rumble of motorcycle engines. A lot of them. How many men do we have left in the bar? Silas asked. Maybe 30, but half of them are too drunk to fight. And some are scared. They don't want to go up against Vincent. Silas cursed under his breath. Tell Vincent we'll send out a representative. Stall him. Danny nodded and ran. Silas closed the door, turned to face the room. We're outnumbered and outgunned, he said. If it comes to a fight, we lose. Simple as that. Then we don't fight, Piper said. Everyone looked at her. I'll go talk to him. Absolutely not, her mother said. It's me he wants. If I don't go out there, people are going to die. Good people who just voted to change leadership. I won't let that happen. She's right, Raymond said quietly. This is between her and Vincent now. Has been since the moment she challenged him. We can't hide her forever. Then I'm going with her, Silas said. No. Piper's voice was firm. If you come, he'll see it as an insult. Like I need protection. Like I'm still just a scared kid. I have to face him alone. You are a scared kid, her mother said desperately. You should be scared. This is insane. I am scared, terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. Piper looked at Silas. That's what Grandpa would have done, right? Face it head on. Silas's jaw worked. Finally, he nodded. Yeah, that's exactly what he would have done. Then it's what I'm going to do too. She walked to the door before anyone could stop her, before she could lose her nerve. Her hands were shaking. Her heart felt like it was trying to escape her chest. But she pushed open the door and walked through the bar, through the crowd that parted for her like water through the front entrance and into the parking lot. Vincent stood there surrounded by men in Dust Devil's colors. Men who'd chosen him over the vote over the club's future. The engines were still running, filling the night air with noise and exhaust. Vincent's face was bruised from the fight with Silas, his lips still bleeding. But his eyes were clear and cold and utterly ruthless. There she is, he said, the little girl who thinks she's a queen, come to bow before the real king. I came to tell you it's over, Piper said. Her voice didn't shake. That was something. You lost. The vote was legitimate. The club has new leadership. You need to accept that and move on. Vincent laughed. Move on? To what you think you can just vote me out and I'll slink away into the desert I built this club into what it is today. I bled for it, killed for it, and I'm not giving it up because a child wearing a dead man's jacket says so. Then what do you want? I want you to understand something. Vincent moved closer. His men followed a wall of muscle and leather. You can have your little victory. You can play president with Silas. You can sit at the big table and pretend you matter. But this club, it's still mine. The men are still loyal to me. And when the time comes, and it will come, they're going to choose me over you. Because at the end of the day, you're just a 12-year-old girl playing dress-up. And I'm the only one who can protect them from what's coming. What's coming? Vincent's smile was terrible. War. Real war. Not with the Sidewinders, not with the Stone Kings. With something bigger. Something that's been building for years. And when it arrives, these men are going to remember who kept them safe. Who gave them power, who made them feared instead of forgotten. He leaned down his face inches from hers. So enjoy your victory, little queen, because it's not going to last. And when it crumbles, I'll be there to pick up the pieces, right before I bury you next to your grandfather. He walked away. His men followed engines roaring as they pulled out of the parking lot and disappeared into the night. Piper stood there alone, her whole body shaking, tears streaming down her face that she couldn't stop. Behind her, the door opened. Silas appeared, Lily and Raymond and her mother right behind him. What did he say? Silas asked. He said war is coming, Piper whispered, and he's the only one who can stop it. He's bluffing. What if he's not? No one had an answer for that. They stood there in the parking lot under the desert stars, and Piper realized that winning the vote had only been the beginning. The real fight was just getting started. They didn't go back inside the Iron Cross. The celebration, if it could even be called that, had turned sour the moment Vincent's threat hung in the air. Instead, they regrouped at the old gas station, the same hideout Silas had taken Piper to that first day. It felt like a lifetime ago, though it had only been 48 hours. Raymond sat at the table, studying the maps, his weathered hands tracing routes across the desert. Lily paced like a caged animal, her phone pressed to her ear, as she talked to her contacts in Phoenix. Cal and a few of the old guards stood watch outside, weapons visible now that pretense was gone. And Piper sat on a crate in the corner, her mother's arms wrapped around her, neither of them speaking. Vincent doesn't bluff, Raymond said, finally breaking the silence. If he says war is coming, he means it. Question is, war with who? The Stone Kings, Lily said, ending her call. My sources in Phoenix say they've been moving south for months. Buying up territory, strong-arming, smaller clubs into merging or disbanding. They're building an empire and the Dust Devils are right in their path. How big are we talking? Silas asked. 300 members across 6 states. Full military structure. They've got former special forces running their operations cartel connections for weapons and money and zero tolerance for anyone who gets in their way. Lily's face was grim. Vincent's been negotiating with them, trying to work out some kind of alliance or protection deal. But my guess is it fell through when we voted him out. Now they're going to see us as weak, divided, easy pickings. So Vincent was telling the truth, Piper said quietly. He was protecting the club. He was protecting his power, Raymond corrected. There's a difference. Vincent would sell out every member of this club if it meant staying on top. Whatever deal he was making with the Stone Kings, it wasn't for our benefit. How do you know? Because I know Vincent. I've known him for 50 years. And the only person Vincent Cross has ever protected is Vincent Cross. Raymond's eyes were hard. The question now is what we do about it. Silas leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We have three options. We can try to negotiate with the Stone Kings ourselves. We can prepare for war and hope we survive. Or we can disband the club entirely and scatter before they arrive. We're not disbanding, Cal said from the doorway. Emmett didn't build this club so we could run away the first time things got hard. Emmett also didn't build this club to get everyone killed in a war we can't win, Piper's mother said sharply. You're talking about going up against 300 trained soldiers with 30 old men and a 12-year-old girl. That's not courage. That's suicide. Then what do you suggest, Karen? Lily's voice was cutting. We all just pack up and leave, abandon everything, let the Stone Kings take over and hope they don't come after us anyway. I suggest you stop pretending my daughter is a member of this club. She's a child. She shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be anywhere near this. She's a founding member, Raymond said quietly. She has Emmett's seat. That makes her part of this whether you like it or not. She's 12 years old. Age doesn't change blood. Raymond's voice cracked like a whip. Your daughter stepped up when no one else would. She faced down Vincent Cross and won. She earned her place at that table through courage and conviction. You don't get to take that away from her just because you're scared. I'm her mother. Being scared is my job. And my job is to honor the promise I made to Emmett. Raymond's expression softened slightly. I understand your fear, Karen. I do. But Piper's not going to be safe whether she's in the club or out of it. Vincent made sure of that. The Stone Kings made sure of that. Her only chance now is to be strong enough that they think twice before coming after her. How is a 12-year-old supposed to be that strong? By having 300 brothers and sisters willing to die for her. Silas pushed off the wall. We don't abandon the club. We rebuild it. We make it strong enough to stand against the Stone Kings. And we do it with Piper as our symbol, as proof that the Dust Devils are more than just muscle and violence, that we're family. Family gets each other killed, Piper's mother said bitterly. Sometimes. But family also keeps each other alive when no one else will. Silas looked at Piper. The choice is yours. You claimed the seat, you called the vote. But this standing with us against what's coming, that's a different kind of commitment. No one will blame you if you walk away. You've already done more than anyone could have asked. Piper looked at her mother's tear-streaked face, at the fear and love and desperation there. Then she looked at Raymond, at Lily, at Cal standing guard with a shotgun across his chest. At Silas, who'd protected her from the moment this started. If I walk away, Vincent wins, she said. He gets to point at me and say, see, she was just a kid playing dress-up. She ran when things got real. And then the club falls apart. And everyone who voted for change, who believed we could be better, they all get hunted down and killed because they backed the wrong horse. That's not your responsibility, her mother whispered. Yes, it is. The moment I put on Grandpa's patch, it became my responsibility. He knew that. That's why he left me the note. That's why he made Silas promise to protect me. Piper stood gently pulling away from her mother's embrace. I'm not walking away. I'm seeing this through. Whatever comes next. Her mother made a sound like breaking glass. Then she stood too, her face transforming from grief to something harder. Then I'm staying too. And if Vincent or the Stone Kings or anyone else comes after my daughter, they're going to have to go through me first. Something shifted in the room, an alignment, a settling into place. Okay, Silas said. Then we prepare for war. Raymond, I need you to reach out to every chapter, every member who's ever worn the patch. Call in every favor, every debt. We need bodies. On it. Lily, your connections in Phoenix, can they get us weapons? Real firepower. They can, but it'll cost. The club has money. Vincent was stealing from us, remember? Now we use those funds for what they were meant for. Protection. Silas turned to Cal. I need you to scout the territory. Find out where the Stone Kings are staging, how they're moving, what their timeline looks like. We need intelligence. Cal nodded. I'll take Danny and a few of the prospects. We'll be ghosts. Good. And Piper. Silas paused. I need you to do the hardest thing of all. I need you to wait. To stay safe. To let us build the defenses while you keep your head down. No, Piper's voice was flat. I'm not hiding while everyone else fights. You're not hiding, you're being strategic. The Stone Kings don't know you yet, don't know what you represent. That's an advantage. We don't show our hand until we're ready. Silas is right, Lily said. You've already done the heavy lifting. You removed Vincent. You gave us a chance to regroup. Now let us do our jobs. Piper wanted to argue, wanted to demand they teach her to fight, to shoot, to be useful. But she could see the logic in their eyes, the careful calculation. She was a symbol, not a soldier, and symbols needed to stay intact. Fine, she said, but I want updates every day. I want to know what's happening. Deal. They worked through the night. Raymond made calls, his voice persuasive and commanding, despite his age. Lily disappeared for 2 hours and came back with a duffel bag full of cash and a contact number for an arms dealer in Tucson. Cal and his scouts left on their bikes, heading east toward the reported Stone King's positions. And Silas sat with Piper and her mother, mapping out safe houses, escape routes, contingency plans. If things go south, he said, you don't fight, you run. You take your mom and you go to this address in Colorado. He wrote it down, pressed the paper into Piper's hand. There's a man there, former Dust Devil, who owes me his life 3 times over. He'll keep you safe until this blows over. And if it doesn't blow over, then you start fresh. New names, new lives, but you survive. That's what matters. Piper folded the paper, tucked it into her grandfather's jacket pocket. She could feel the weight of it there, a promise of escape that she hoped she'd never need. Dawn broke cold and clear. Piper dozed for maybe an hour, her head on her mother's shoulder before Silas shook her awake. We've got company, he said quietly. Outside, 3 motorcycles pulled up. Not Dust Devils, not Sidewinders. The patches read Stone King's MC with a crowned skull underneath. Raymond appeared at Silas's shoulder. That was faster than I expected. They're not here to fight, Lily said, peering through a crack in the boarded window. Only 3 of them. If they wanted war, they'd bring an army. Then they're here to talk. Silas checked his weapon, tucked it into his waistband. Raymond, Lily, you're with me. Everyone else stay inside. And Piper don't come out no matter what happens. Understand? Piper nodded, her mouth dry. They walked out to meet the Stone Kings. Piper watched through the window, her heart hammering. The 3 men were huge, professional, nothing like the rough and tumble bikers she'd grown used to. They looked like soldiers, moved like soldiers. The one in front pulled off his helmet. He was maybe 40 with a shaved head and eyes that scanned the hideout with tactical precision. You're the new president, he said to Silas. It wasn't a question. I am, and you are. Commander Marcus Webb. I speak for the Stone Kings in this region. His gaze shifted to Raymond, then Lily. Didn't expect to see any founding members left. Thought you were all dead or retired. We're hard to kill, Raymond said mildly. Clearly. Webb's expression was unreadable. We're here because Vincent Cross reached out to us 2 days ago, offered us a deal. Full access to your territory in exchange for protection and a percentage of our operations. We were inclined to accept. Were Simon asked? Past tense, because when we arrived this morning to finalize terms, we found out Vincent's no longer in charge, which means the deal's off the table, which means we're back to Plan A. What's Plan A? We take your territory by force, absorb your members or eliminate them. Standard expansion protocol. Webb said it like he was discussing the weather, but I wanted to extend a professional courtesy first. Give you a chance to negotiate before we start breaking things. How generous. I'm a reasonable man, President Kane. I don't enjoy unnecessary violence. It's messy, expensive, and bad for business. So here's my offer. You disband the Dust Devils voluntarily. Your members are free to join the Stone Kings or walk away, No bloodshed, no reprisals. Clean transition. And if we refuse, then we go to war. And you lose. You know it. I know it. Everyone in that hideout knows it. You've got maybe 50 active members across all your chapters. We've got 300. You're outgunned, outmanned, and out of time. Accepting my offer is the smart play. Silas was quiet for a long moment. Piper could see him calculating weighing options. Then he smiled. It was a dangerous smile. I appreciate the courtesy, Commander, I do. But the Dust Devils aren't disbanding. We're not walking away. And we're sure as hell not rolling over for you or anyone else. Webb's expression didn't change. That's your final answer. It is. Then you've just declared war on the Stone Kings. I hope you understand what that means. I understand perfectly. Do you? Something flickered in Webb's eyes. Uncertainty, maybe, or respect. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Little bit of both, probably. But here's what you need to understand, Commander. The Dust Devils have been around for over 50 years. We've survived gang wars, federal investigations, internal coups. We've buried our brothers and rebuilt from ashes more times than I can count. And we're still here. Still standing. So if you want our territory, you're going to have to take it. And it's going to cost you more than you're expecting. Webb studied him for a long moment. Then he pulled a photograph from his pocket, held it up. Piper's breath caught. It was her, walking out of school wearing her grandfather's jacket. This girl, Webb said, Piper Calloway, Emmett's granddaughter. Vincent told us about her, said she's the reason you're in charge now, said if we wanted to break the Dust Devils, we start with her. Silas's hand moved toward his weapon, but Raymond caught his wrist. You threatened that girl, Raymond said softly, and this stops being a territorial dispute. It becomes personal. For every founding member still breathing, for every old guard who remembers what this club used to stand for. You'll be fighting something you can't beat with numbers or weapons. You'll be fighting ghosts. Webb looked at the photograph again, then at the hideout. Piper ducked away from the window, her heart racing. She's 12 years old, Webb said. What kind of club puts a child in the line of fire? The kind that believes in legacy, in family, in standing up for what's right even when it's hard. Silas's voice was steady. And if you come after her, you better bring everything you've got, because we will burn your whole empire to the ground before we let you touch her. Webb tucked the photograph away. You've got 72 hours. After that, we move. And when we do, we won't stop until every Dust Devil is dead or gone. That's not a threat. That's a promise. He mounted his bike. His companions did the same. They rode off without another word, dust rising in their wake. Silas, Raymond, and Lily stood there in silence until the sound of engines faded completely. Then Silas turned and walked back inside his face like stone. We need to move her, he said without preamble. Now, before they come back. Where? Piper's mother demanded. Anywhere but here. They've got her photo. They know what she looks like. She's a walking target. Then maybe she should use that. Everyone turned to stare at Piper. She stepped forward, her voice stronger than she felt. They think I'm a weakness, a way to break the club. What if we use that against them? Absolutely not, her mother said. Hear me out. They're expecting us to hide me, to protect me. What if we do the opposite? What if we put me out there visible, surrounded by guards, show them that threatening a 12-year-old girl makes them look like monsters, not warriors? Make it a PR nightmare. The Stone Kings don't care about PRR, Lily said. But their allies do, their suppliers. The other clubs watching to see how this plays out. Piper was thinking fast now, the pieces clicking together. Nobody wants to work with a gang that murders children. It's bad for business. If we make me public, make it clear that any attack on me is an attack on a kid, they lose credibility. Silas was shaking his head. It's too risky. Everything's risky. But hiding makes me look weak. Makes the whole club look weak. We need to project strength. Remember? Well, standing in the open while they blink first, that's strength. She's got a point, Raymond said slowly. Webb hesitated when he saw her age. He's military. He's got rules of engagement burned into him. Attacking a child goes against that training. But he'll do it if he has to, Silas argued. Maybe, but he'll think twice. And thinking twice buys us time. Raymond looked at Piper with something like admiration. You're more like your grandfather every day. So we're really considering this. Piper's mother looked around the room wildly, using my daughter as bait. Not bait, a symbol. Lily's eyes were calculating. We announce a public gathering, a memorial for Emmett Calloway. Invite every chapter, every ally, every news outlet we can find. Put Piper front and center speaking about her grandfather's legacy. The Stone Kings would have to attack in front of cameras, witnesses, law enforcement. They won't risk it. And after the memorial, Silas asked, after we bought enough time to fortify positions, call in reinforcements, prepare for the real fight. Lily looked at Piper. But only if you're willing to stand in front of all those people and make them believe the Dust Devils are worth fighting for. Can you do that? Piper thought about her grandfather, about the note he'd left her, about the promises made in blood that didn't die with the men who made them. Yeah, she said, I can do that. Her mother started to protest, but Raymond cut her off. Karen, I know this isn't what you want, but your daughter's right. Hiding won't save her. The only thing that'll save her now is making her too valuable to kill, too public to eliminate quietly. And the only way to do that is to put her in the spotlight. This is insane. Welcome to the Dust Devils, Lily said dryly. They spent the next 24 hours planning. Silas reached out to local media, framing it as a human interest story, young girl, honoring her grandfather's memory, carrying on his legacy. Raymond contacted every chapter, calling in every member for the memorial. Lily worked her connections to ensure maximum visibility, maximum coverage. And Piper practiced her speech writing and rewriting until the words felt true. Her mother helped her pick out clothes. Not the jacket, not the patches. A simple black dress that made her look even younger than 12. You're going to make them see you as a child first, her mother said quietly, before they see you as a threat. That's the only way this works. I know. And if something goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, you run. You don't try to be brave. You don't try to fight. You run and you keep running until you're somewhere safe. Promise me. Piper met her mother's eyes, saw the fear there, the love, the terrible knowledge that she was sending her daughter into danger. I promise, Piper said. It was a lie. They both knew it. But her mother needed to hear it. The memorial was set for Sunday afternoon at the Iron Cross. By noon, the parking lot was packed. Motorcycles from every chapter, cars from Redstone Gap residents who'd known Emmett news vans with satellite dishes. Silas had guards everywhere, old guard members with concealed weapons prospects watching the perimeter scouts on the roads leading in and out of town. Piper stood in the back room, her hands shaking as she looked at her reflection. She looked small in the black dress. Young, vulnerable, exactly what they needed. You ready? Silas asked from the doorway. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's the spirit. He handed her a small device. Microphone, it'll clip to your dress. We've got speakers set up outside for the crowd. Piper attached it with trembling fingers. What if I mess up? What if I forget the words? Then you speak from the heart. That's what your grandfather would have done. Silas's expression softened. He'd be so proud of you, Piper. I hope you know that. Her throat tightened. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Raymond appeared behind Silas. It's time. They walked out together. The crowd parted for them, hundreds of eyes tracking Piper's every move. She climbed onto the makeshift stage, just a flatbed truck really, and looked out at the sea of faces. News cameras pointed at her. Phones held up recording. More people than she'd ever addressed in her life. She stepped up to the microphone, cleared her throat, and began to speak. My grandfather, Emmett Calloway, was a complicated man, she said. Her voice echoed across the parking lot, clear and strong, despite the fear churning in her stomach. He made mistakes, big ones. He hurt people. He broke laws. He did things that he spent the rest of his life trying to make right. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But he also built something. A brotherhood, a family. The Dust Devils weren't just a motorcycle club to him. They were proof that people could change, that mistakes didn't define you, that redemption was possible if you fought for it hard enough. Movement at the edge of the crowd. Piper's heart skipped. Stone King's members, she realized. At least a dozen of them standing at the perimeter watching. She kept talking. My grandfather left me his patch because he wanted me to remember that legacy. Not the violence, not the mistakes, but the belief that family, real family, stands together no matter what. That we protect each other. That we fight for something bigger than ourselves. More movement, this time from the opposite side. The Sidewinders. Creed stood at the front, his massive arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Piper's mouth went dry. Every gang in the region was here. Watching, waiting. I'm 12 years old, she continued. I should be worried about homework and friends and normal kid stuff. But I'm standing here instead because some legacies are too important to walk away from. Some promises are too sacred to break. And some families are worth fighting for even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when everyone tells you you're too young, too small, too scared. She looked directly at the Stone King's members. My grandfather's patch represents 50 years of brotherhood, 50 years of men and women who chose to stand together instead of falling apart. And I'm here to tell you that legacy doesn't end with him. It continues with me, with every dust devil who showed up today, with everyone who believes that family means something. Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. So if you're watching this, if you're thinking about coming after us, about breaking us, know that you're not just fighting a motorcycle club. You're fighting a family. And families don't give up. They don't back down. They don't surrender. She pulled off the microphone, stepped down from the stage. The crowd erupted, not in applause, but in the roar of motorcycle engines. Every dust devil in the parking lot started their bikes simultaneously, the sound deafening, defiant, a wall of noise that said, "We're still here." The Stone King's members watched. One of them, not Webb. Someone younger pulled out his phone, made a call. Piper couldn't hear what he said over the engines, but she saw him nod, saw him gesture to the others. They left. All of them. Mounted their bikes and rode away. The Sidewinders stayed longer. Creed met Piper's eyes across the parking lot. Then slowly, deliberately, he nodded. Not friendship, not alliance, but respect. Then they left too. Silas appeared at Piper's side. You did it. Did what? Made them think twice. Made this personal instead of tactical. He was grinning, actually grinning. Webb's going to have to report back to his commanders that attacking means going after a 12-year-old girl on camera at her grandfather's memorial. That's not the kind of press the Stone Kings want. So we bought time. We bought more than time. We bought doubt. Raymond joined them, his eyes bright. Well done, kid. You just turned yourself from a liability into an asset. Piper's knees felt weak. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her shaky and exhausted. Her mother pushed through the crowd, wrapped her in a hug so tight it hurt. Don't ever scare me like that again, she whispered. No promises, Piper whispered back. They spent the rest of the day at the Iron Cross accepting condolences and congratulations, shaking hands with members from chapters Piper didn't know existed. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, ready to collapse. But then Cal burst through the door, his face urgent. We've got a problem, he said. Vincent's made his move. The room went silent. What move? Silas demanded. He's allied with the Sidewinders. Creed just announced it. Full merger. Vincent's bringing his loyalists into their club, and together they're preparing to challenge the Stone Kings for territory. Cal looked at Piper, and he's demanding you hand over Emmett's patch as the price for peace. Says if you don't, he'll consider the Dust Devils enemies of the Sidewinder Cross Alliance. Piper felt the world tilt. How long do we have? Raymond asked. 24 hours, then they move on us. Silas's face was grim. Then we prepare for war. Real war. Because I'll die before I let Vincent take that patch. Piper touched the serpent on her back, feeling its weight. He's not taking anything. Not my patch. Not my grandfather's legacy. Not this club. She looked around the room at the faces watching her. At the old guard and the new members at Lily and Raymond and her mother and Silas. At the family her grandfather had built. The Stone Kings backed down because we showed them we were worth more alive than dead. Now we show Vincent and the Sidewinders the same thing. We make them understand that the Dust Devils don't surrender. Ever. How? Someone asked. Piper smiled. It was a hard smile, nothing childlike about it. We challenge them to a council meeting. Old school. Representatives from each side, witnessed by neutral parties, and we negotiate terms they can't refuse. Vincent won't negotiate, Lily said. Then we make him, by threatening the one thing he values more than power. Piper's eyes were cold. His reputation. We expose every dirty deal, every betrayal, every crime he's committed. We make him toxic, and then we watch his alliance fall apart. The room was silent. Then Raymond started laughing. Emmett would have loved you, he said. Absolutely loved you. Then let's make him proud, Piper said. And for the first time since this all began, she felt like maybe, just maybe, they could actually win.